Good morning, CrossFit Linchpin. Going to chat today about something I like to call the fitness stock market, which is just how to properly assess if you're moving in the right direction or the wrong direction. And then also, I think over the weekend, I put out one of those little things on the Instagram story that said, like, you could type in a suggestion. So it's something like, hey, if you have a question or something you'd like to hear discussed on a live video, write the topic down. I got a tremendous amount of responses to those things, a ton. So I took a bunch of screenshots of the answer as they rolled in, and they could arguably keep me occupied here for the next month. So we will chat real quick about two or three of the questions that rolled in. We'll start to make our way through them, and then I'll give you my synopsis of, the fitness stock market, and then we'll get out of here. So, number one, okay, there was a question that rolled in, and I scratched them down because there were so many, and this is a synopsis, it might not be word for word, that basically said, could you explain the rationale behind static holds, such as the L-sit, and how they transfer to other movements? So good question, common question, because it's going to be easy initially if you're new to CrossFit, because we're always saying that movements that we do in CrossFit are functional movements. They're found in the real world, and they transfer to the real world. They're found in nature. They're unavoidable. They're universal motor recruitment patterns, and all that good stuff, that accurate stuff that you hear at your level 1. And then you might say, I've never seen somebody in the real world just do an L-sit. That'd be very peculiar. So why the heck do we do those? The very short answer is midline stabilization, which is what probably people before CrossFit, myself included, would say is core work, is working your abs, things of that nature. So the short answer, we do midline stabilization, and we use movements like the L. We love midline stabilization, and we do movements like the L-sit to help develop it. The truth is almost every single movement that we do develops midline stabilization. The air squat develops midline stabilization. If you could be aware enough to tell what muscle groups in your body are firing and what tense up, if you were in a seated position and then you rose to standing, you would notice that one of the first things, if not the first thing that occurred, was your midline would contract, would tense up, hence allowing you to then stand up. So everything we do is midline stabilization, but the L-sit, now even though that's something we very rarely would put into a workout, because as always, rabbit holes develop as I start this stuff, and I'll try not to go too far down the rabbit hole. There are some movements like the L-sit that are incredibly powerful and potent, and if you develop competency at them, you will have such a rock solid and strong midline that will transfer over to all these functional movements that we do, from your deadlift, your back squat, your front squat, your squat clean, your snatching. I mean, everything. It will transfer to your pull-ups, to your push-ups, to thrusters, to, you name it. You're never not going to want to have incredible midline stability. And while everything does develop it, the L-sit just is a laser focus on it. And so developing capacity in the L-sit, even though you may not see an L-sit in nature, makes all the other functional movements better. And there are some movements like the L-sit, even though they're incredibly useful and they transfer very well to functional movement, we won't program them that frequently in an actual workout where we're supposed to keep intensity relatively high. That would be a movement that we'd probably do before or after the workout as part of our accessory or practice or midline work. So we could go down that rabbit hole, why some movements, even though they're useful, don't make their way into programming, but maybe I'll scratch that down. We'll save that for a different time. So that's question number one. Question number two, which was cool, was any help in how to find intensity when training elderly athletes? Excellent question, and something I've been doing a lot more of. And the very short answer is, for a lot of deconditioned or older athletes, just simply moving is intensity. Period. End of story. Just simply learning proper technique, and maybe they're going to show up to your garage, to your gym, to your affiliate, to whatever, and you're going to teach them the air squat today. And maybe in the back of your head, you're like, okay, we're going to spend some time teaching so-and-so the air squat. And then after that, we're going to throw it into a workout, get a little spicy and see what we can do. I wouldn't be surprised that you find that you don't do the workout that day because of what you see with your eyes of just teaching that individual, that older deconditioned athlete, how to go from a seated to a standing position, how to keep their weight balanced on their feet, how to drive their knees out, how to try to keep their chest up. The fight to try to get below parallel and stand up will be exhausting in and of itself, a workout in and of itself, and nothing else will be needed. I taught this one older woman, was teaching her the air squat, and she was nowhere near getting below parallel, nowhere near getting close to parallel. She could only move up and down so far that I would liken it to like the dip drive of a push press. So not much at all. And we did 4 or 5 of these with me instructing her what looked like dip drives, but they were her best attempt at the air squat, and it was honest effort in there. And by repetition number 5, a very slow, controlled movement, her legs were just shaking. And so we took a seat and took a break. That was hard work for her. So you can believe that there was, absolutely no reason after something like that to do a workout. So it's funny. 2019, everybody wants to be, a precious, unique human being, right? And in general, a lot of 25-year-olds or 30-year-olds or 35 in general that walk through the doors of your gym are relatively similar. Relatively. Of course, they'll have various life circumstances. Maybe they get injured in a collegiate sport or, whatever, different levels of conditioning. Got it. But in general, your on-ramp program probably fits them really well. How you do business most of the time probably fits them pretty well, with just a few exceptions. Very few 65-year-olds are the same. Very few 70-year-olds are the same. Very few 75-year-olds are the same. So you can't really have, a set-in-stone mentality with an older deconditioned athlete. You really do have to have a good conversation, get to know each one personally and individually, figure out what they have going on, and then intelligently move forward, based upon their unique circumstances. But I will say also, working with that population, in my opinion, is some of the coolest, most rewarding work that's out there for trainers. I really mean that. You take somebody who's 28 years old and you take their 375-pound deadlift and they make it to the 400 club. That's cool, for sure, okay? That's cool, but they already had a fine deadlift that they're going to be able to go out and get groceries and do yard work that day. They just want to make it to 400 or 405 so they can say they have 4 plates in the bar. But you take an older and deconditioned athlete, and we've had athletes that came back after months of training and have reported, hey, my grandkids were in town, and for the first time in multiple years, I could pick up the 4 or 5-year-old and walk around with them, or I could go up and down the stairs to the 2nd level of my kid's home, which I haven't been able to do in years. Those stories, as far as I'm concerned, are way cooler that, somebody that just wants to get in a second sesh because they're not happy with their squat snatch. But that's just, it is what it is. I got a question about a Linchpin reading list. Would I ever put out a Linchpin reading list? Which, of course, I love that question because I'm biased. I'm a book nerd. Absolutely love books. And I've got a shelf of them back there with the ones that I've liked enough to keep. So I probably should put something together if anybody's out there interested in that. So yes, I should do that. And then we had a question about developing a better mental game. Make sure I'm not missing anything here, because of course I've missed things. My apologies. Okay, let's see. That'll get into the mental game question. Some hand waves, some waves right back at you. Justin Heyman, the limited equipment option from yesterday has my legs and glutes on fire. It's no joke. Justin, I did the limited equipment option yesterday as well, and the moment that I woke up, I noticed that exact deal. Those dumbbells worked me over. Okay, let's see here. I think I'm doing good. Okay. Oh, good. Support for the book list. All right, developing a better mental game. This could be another one that's just a rabbit hole, so I'll relatively try to keep it short because this could be its own video, its own discussion. It's extraordinarily important for obvious reasons. If I go back to my background in the military and the SEALs, right? Just for the sake of it's useful to a discussion about mental game. You're not going to become mentally tougher, be able to be more resilient to hardships, to be more of a durable human being, and to be more just all around, ready for adversity with anything that you're going to do in the gym. Largely, okay, maybe there's one or two small exceptions to that, but I don't think that's where profoundly just rock solid, tough between the ears human beings, they don't get that way working out. I think what you need to do personally to get your mental game strong, because there's a whole lot of people that work out a whole lot less than most CrossFitters, but are so tough between the ears that it's terrifying. And I would recommend, if you have an interest in developing your mental game, okay, here we go. First of all, we just mentioned books, right? I think there's a lot of great knowledge that you should that you should dive into with books. And not that a book will teach you how to be mentally strong, but there are some phenomenal books out there that help align your priorities, help you figure out what's really important in life, in your personal life, help you figure out what it is in your personal life, and this will be different for everybody, that's worth fighting for, that's worth suffering for, that's worth enduring misery for. And each person has to figure that out for themselves. And that's probably not going to happen with a barbell in your hand. It's probably going to happen through a lot. Introspection, through a lot of time in your own head, through a lot of time figuring yourself out, figuring out your priorities, where your loyalties lie, what your integrity is all about, and what you're willing to compromise on and not willing to compromise on. And largely that's going to happen through personal development, which, man, now we could get down a rabbit hole. I think personal development is something that everybody should spend more time on, myself included. I didn't start getting into personal development till, as far as I'm concerned, way too late in life. I'm going to try to get my kids to start going down that road before I did, because everybody has issues and things going on, and everybody's always trying to fix the other people in the room, fix the other person in the relationship, fix the other people that you work with. Everyone's always very, very interested with addressing other people's faults, and they're experts in that area. Where, truth be told, again, this is probably an oversimplification, but you really can't fix other people. That's on them. All of us, the most that any of us could really hope for is to fix ourselves, to figure ourselves out. And if you start to sort yourself out, your pros, your cons, your weaknesses, your strengths, your deficiencies, the whole nine yards, and you start to remove your ego, and first of all admit that you do have probably a tremendous amounts of faults and flaws and deficiencies, and then you take a good, hard, honest look at them, and you start to work on them to improve them, it will be very hard for you to do that and not become a more resilient human being, not become mentally stronger, not become tougher, not become more focused. I just don't see how that couldn't happen. I think that would happen. That's been my personal experience anyway. And so I would say, if you want to develop a better mental game, it starts first and foremost with taking a very hard look at yourself and starting to spend some serious time on personal development. And that's a great place to start. There's 3 or 4 other things I ticked off as to how to develop a better mental game, such as exposing yourself intelligently in small steps to challenging and stressful situations that are outside your comfort zone, but done in an environment that if you do fail, the stakes are very low, right? So that you can learn from them, reapply, then reintroduce yourself into that scenario again with a little bit more knowledge, a little bit more confidence, and hopefully overcome it. And you need to keep playing this game again and again. So anyway, but that's also linked to the reading list. Okay, let's see. Maybe I'll get to that one here. So the last thing that I wanted to get to here was the fitness stock market example. And so that came up. There's evergreen topics, if you will, topics that are of so much use and value that people need to hear about them on a regular basis. And one of them is, we're always talking here at CrossFit Linchpin about trying to take the pressure off of yourself. Because at the end of the day, we're just working out. It's really just it. And we're just lucky and blessed that we get to spend an hour of our day not doing hard labor, trying to earn money or whatnot, but we actually go in and do these things to our body of free will just so that we can be healthier in the long run. So life's fantastic. We're super lucky people, incredibly lucky people. And so you will have this great opportunity to go in and just, work out, and people put so much stress on it that it becomes this not a fun activity. Bring the fun back to working out. So what is a phenomenal and instrumental tool is tracking your data so that you can make sure that in general your fitness is moving in the right direction, from your conditioning to your body weight movements to your moving external objects, your lifting, that it all in general is trending in a positive way. Well, you're not going to know that if you don't track your data. So tracking your data it's critical, right? It's part of the CrossFit methodology. We're data driven. But here's the downside. If you get too wrapped up in that and you put all this pressure on it that every single day needs to just be over the moon amazing, you're going to get down on yourself and start to question what you're doing. So if you're new, a novice, PRs happen very frequently when you're new because you just got nowhere to go but up. And then when you've been doing it for a few years and you're intermediate, PRs still happen, but they happen with less frequency. That's okay. That's perfectly normal. If you've been around a long time, 7, 10, 12, 15 years doing CrossFit. There are people out there that have been doing CrossFit for 15 years. I'm here to tell you, PRs happen way less frequent. And that doesn't mean that anything is going wrong. That just means that's just the natural, normal course of a development of a human being, and that's A-okay. And then what your goal becomes is, so you can't chase PRs all the time. When they happen, they're super fun, celebrate them, great. But if you go to the gym, you warm up, you have a great session, you push yourself, you're safe, you cool down, and you go home and you didn't PR, it's a fantastic day in the gym. It's just that simple. It doesn't matter that a PR didn't happen. It's a fantastic day in the gym. And it can also be a fantastic day in the gym if not only you don't PR, but you don't even beat a previous time of a workout. To some degree, who cares? So let's say that you've got, Cindy, and your Cindy PR is 20 rounds, and then you go in today and you do 18 rounds of Cindy. Now, it could be very easy for somebody to say, you know what? Well, I 20 is my PR, and I got 18 today, so I'm a failure. What's wrong with my training? I need to go back to the drawing board. I need to reassess everything. Holy smokes, my life is in ruin. It's in shambles. And so that is a terrible attitude to have. That is an attitude that will bring you down, turn you into a fitness head case, and just make going into the gym a dreadful experience. So we get some math whizzes out there. So let's say you had 20 rounds of Cindy, and then you go in and you do 18 rounds of Cindy, and so you consider yourself this failure and everything's going wrong. If my math is accurate, I believe 18 is 90% of 20. I think my math is right on that. I didn't do it on a calculator, but it just seems to make sense. So you basically walked into a gym, and the last time you did Cindy, your life was different. The workout's the same, but your life is different. How you slept the night or two previous is different. How you ate is different. The stressors in your life were different. Did Cindy occur last time just before a rest day, just after a rest day? Where did Cindy occur today? Was the workout that was done the day before have some intentional interference, or was it a workout that let you feel actually quite recovered going into Cindy? Who knows? Everything in your life is different. The only thing that's the same is Cindy. So if you think you're going to go in with basically every other factor of your life different and nail it every single time that Cindy comes up, is lunacy. Absolute lunacy. So, and you walked in with your life totally different and did 18 rounds instead of 20, and you consider yourself potentially a failure and something's wrong. I look at it and go, wow, you can walk into the gym on really any day and with totally different life experiences do this benchmark workout, and you're within and you're within 10% of a lifetime PR. So you just walk around at 85 to 90% maximal lifetime best all the time. That's incredible. You're an amazing human being walking the earth that you just walk around. You don't walk around at 50% or 60%. You're walking around at 80 to 90% of your all-time best. It's phenomenal. And anyway, my fitness stock market thing is, if you invest in the stock market, I think most stock advisors would tell you, you don't check the stock market every day. So it's not like you give your, whoever manages your portfolio this lump sum of money on Monday, and then you call them up 24 hours later, Tuesday, and you go, hey, how's that money doing? How's the stock market? And they'll be like, it's been 24 hours. How fast do you think things happen? Call me back at this time next year. Don't even call me next week. Don't call me next month. That's too soon to check in. Call me next year. And so the goal is, because if you called that stock advisor every day, there would be days where your money was up 25%. Things are great. There would be days where it dropped 30% for some bizarre reason. There would be days that it was stagnant. And if you checked it every single day, you would go crazy. And not only would you go crazy, but you would get a distorted view of whether or not you had made an intelligent decision and whether or not things are moving in the right direction. If so with your fitness, that's the problem potentially with every single day, judging your overall fitness every single day. You have a new self-assessment. That's the bad part of data. What you should do is, I would say, if you want to take a look back and see if the general trend is up, stagnant or down, I would give it at least 3 months. So basically once a quarter, I would take a look back and say, in general, and we've had good days and bad days, but in general, is the trend moving upward or is the trend moving downward? In general, not the teeny little dots each day, but the general trend. And if the general trend is up, life is good. And even better would be if you had the discipline and patience to check it every 6 months. That takes some discipline, but that would be a far better deal. So anyway, that's kind of my fitness stock market example. So anyway, have a wonderful day. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and enjoy the interval training today. I will talk to everybody later.